and welcome to the September Lymphedema Patient Roundtable hosted by LymphaPress. My name is Alexa Ercolano. I'm the Marketing and Communications Associate here at LymphaPress, as well as a primary lymphedema patient myself. We're pumped you're all here with us tonight, seeing everybody sign on. Let us know in the chat where you're logging in from. And while everybody's getting settled, I'm going to introduce our lovely panel. We have Angela Jones, lipolymphedema patient and health coach. Hi, Angela. We have Catherine Rosenberg, cancer survivor, secondary lymphedema patient advocate, and math teacher. School is back in session for Catherine, so any math questions, I love to say, can go Catherine's way. So, we have Kelly Bell, our veteran fighting lymphedema, our fearless advocate. It's good to see you, Kel. We have Amanda Sobey, our lymphedema patient certified personal trainer and nutritionist. She's also the president and professional advisory chair of the Lymphedema Association of Manitoba up in Canada. It's good to see you, Amanda. And we have a special guest tonight. We have Louisa Boyd. She's on the board of directors of the NLN. She's the president at NPress Clinical Training and Consulting, and she's a certified lymphedema therapist through LANA. And we're so glad she's here tonight. Hi, Louisa. Welcome to our table. So last month, we tried something a little bit different as far as the format of the roundtable, and we're going to do it again tonight. So here's how it goes. We are going to start with the panel chatting for the first 20 or 30 minutes. Then we're going to have Q&A. And then we're going to have at around 8:45 our lymphedema call-in show again. And we're going to have more people sign in this time. So as we get closer to that time, I'll remind you all, but how it's going to work is you'll use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and we're going to put your name into a wheel. Catherine is going to be our Vanna White and spin the wheel. And we're going to have people join us on the other side of the virtual table and have a little chat with us. So we're super excited. That's kind of how things are going to go. I'm going to stop talking in a second, but I just want to remind you all to please put your questions in the Q&A box. That way around 8:30, we can go there and answer all that we can. Reminder, as always, we're not going to answer any of your personal medical questions. We are not your doctors or therapists. We do have Louisa here to give some general medical answers, but as always, we're talking from patient experience. You don't want most of our medical advice. We're just a gaggle of patients like you, most of us. So, but we're so happy to talk to you about life with lymphedema. So I'm going to shut up. Let's start with Kelly, Catherine, and Louisa are all going to be at the NLN in October. Do one of you guys want to give us a little sneak peek of what can be expected there this year?
This is going to be a phenomenal NLN. Every year, the bar gets higher, and I will have to say the NLN delivers. We're going to be doing a really deep dive into the central lymphatics, and luckily we have Catherine Rosenberg here, who's going to be participating in that. We're going to be looking at the brain lymphatics, and this is an area I'm so excited. So the cerebral spinal fluid of your brain is the lymphatic fluid of your body. So learning how to access the cerebral spinal fluid, and Dr. Chen's going to be revealing some new research in that area. And then along the other lines, we're just doing a really deeper dives into advanced therapy techniques, special topics. So I hope that everyone who's a therapist can come, but also that you all will benefit from what we learn.
That sounds awesome. And actually, the October Lymphedema Patient Roundtable is just a couple days after the close of the NLN. So we'll be back here on the panel to tell you all about it. So it's going to be really awesome. Okay. Catherine and Kelly, do either of you want to share a little bit? Because y'all are speaking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you talking
Catherine?
Oh, I'm sharing my journey here from diagnosis through I'll call it fixing, complete repair, because I am completely resolved of the central lymphatic issues I was having.
Wow, that's going to be awesome. And a lot of us here throughout the past couple months on the Lymphedema Patient Roundtable, we've got to learn a little bit about your journey and your recent surgeries. You're a year out from your big surgery, and you just had liposuction, right? Or SAPL for the rest of it. So it'll be awesome to kind of hear it all together in one speech.
Yeah, it's going to be a speed talk because trying to get it all in 12 minutes is really hard.
Yeah, it's a good thing you're a fast talker. That's awesome. That'll be really neat.
All right. So my topic is like nutritional complications when you have a blocked thoracic duct. No one talks about that. I learned that way back in 2010 when I had a lymphoscintigraphy, and I actually had like a 24-hour one at Walter Reed. And at the end of the procedure, I noticed like what's supposed to happen when they inject the dye with your toes. It's supposed to come up, and within 6 to 8 hours, it's supposed to be in your liver and your lung and stuff. Mine never progressed past my cysternocoli. And so my next question to them was like, first they were saying, we're starting to see what you've been trying to tell us for the last 5 years. But then secondly, so I asked this, and so how does the nutrients get where it's supposed to go? And I got a blank look and like, what are you talking about? And so I kind of let that play out. And over years, I've asked people like, how does that nutrients get there? How does that nutrients get there? And then 2022, NIH had a presenter, a researcher present about that, how like your metabolism becomes deranged when that happens. Because you have to understand there are certain practices where they intentionally either ligate, which means cut it and suture it, or they block it. But then they don't address the other issue that happens is there's a lot of critical like phospholipids, fats, and things that get to your body that don't get there in a normal path. And so I'm going to use my journey to show you what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Even though I look healthy, there are many things my body is trying to overcome because these natural metabolic processes do not take place in my body like they do in yours and mine. And they look quite a bit different on labs than most people. So it's just to say, hey, if you're dealing with patients like this, and this is an issue you could deal with.
I think it's great that there's so many patient stories that are going to be featured this year at the NLN. I know Amy Rivera is speaking also, who's a huge advocate and patient herself. I think that's so important because every lymphedema patient, even though we have a lot of similar experiences, they're not all the same experiences. So there's something that everybody can learn from hearing from others sharing their stories, and a lot of encouragement that can come from that too. So I appreciate you both speaking and sharing your stories there. I know it's going to impact a lot of people, just like you do with all of us here every month. We're so lucky that we already get to benefit from your candor and sharing your stories with us. So that's awesome. We have a few people in the chat that are going to be there. Layla Albert says she'll be there too in Philadelphia. So that'll be fun. So make sure you come say hi, because I will be there also. And Karen Ashforth, who's one of our usuals on here, she's going to be there, but I think virtually presenting. Yep. And Louisa will be there, of course. And so it'll be fun to see everybody. Nazreen, another panelist who's usually here, she'll be there. So that's awesome. Well, we have a lot of familiar faces in the chat chiming in. We're so excited to see you all. Hi, Loretta, Geri, Barbara, Robert, Diane. It's so great you're all here with us tonight. So today is the National Day of Encouragement, and something we talk a lot about on the roundtable are the mental and emotional struggles that come along with living with a chronic and progressive condition like lymphedema. I would love to hear from folks on the panel, and Louisa too, from a therapist perspective. What are some ways that you stay encouraged living and managing with this every day? Because we all know there are days where you don't want to put on your compression garment, you don't want to use your pump, you have to force yourself to do it sometimes. So how do you keep yourself going? What do you tell yourself? Amanda or Angela, I see your little square lit up.
For me, I try not to overthink it, because I do tend to be an overthinker. And I start thinking about, well, if I did this, this would probably happen, or this would work out, or this would. And I'm still at the stage of denial on occasion. And it's hard for me to admit that, but on occasion I am still in that stage. But for me, it's a matter of just not overthinking it and just do what has to be done, because that's not always easy.
Amanda, I see you. Oh, Catherine raised her hand. She beat you to it.
Amanda, go ahead. You go first. Go ahead.
I'm still thinking. I just think it's so funny. Normally we're always on top of each other to answer questions today. And I'm like, where's the vibe? Where are we all going to answer?
Like we're all
So you
tired.
go ahead, Catherine. I'll come right on after you for sure.
So one of the things for me is that I always have to keep in mind that sometimes what's working for a while is going to change, and we have to learn to adapt. So I'm in that change right now because I just went back to work from being off since June because of school. And so therefore the alarm is going off at 4:30 in the morning so I can pump my leg before I put my compression stocking on. I haven't done that since June 1st. So it's been a struggle, and I have to keep pushing myself to remember, if I don't do it, my leg is going to swell, and I have to make sure that I am more compliant. And I have some really long days because I'm a marching band instructor. And so Tuesdays and Thursdays are my long days. I left marching band early to come here, by the way, just so you guys know. So we actually made my CDT appointments in the middle of the day, right after work on those long days, to kind of help to counteract the potential swelling that would happen if I didn't have that going in from working from 6:30 in the morning until normally I get home at 10 o'clock at night on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that extra oomph to help push that around is definitely been, it's a struggle to get me to go because of the fact that it's all day long and I don't get my nap in. But at the same time, my leg is not huge and it's doing its thing. So I'm learning how to adjust my schedule to what I need to do. And that is super, I found that learning to make adjustments, even if they're small adjustments, you have to give them time to see, to make sure that they're working, or if they're not. But don't say, oh, it didn't work on day one, I'm not continuing with it, because it's not enough time. I say you really kind of need like a 2-week time frame to really see if an adjustment is working or if it's not. But that's kind of where that adjustment, I'm in that adjustment period right now. So it's really a learning experience for me to try to figure out how to get this to work.
I think it's an important point, to be patient and let those adjustments sort of settle and see, you know, how it's affecting your body and how it's working in your treatment routine and everything. I think we're so like, we want a change now, we want it to work now, we want to see those ankle bones or whatever it may be, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time and patience. Amanda, before you go, Geri in the chat says, if I don't do it, I suffer. So I try to do it as best I can. The heat and humidity are real deterrents. Also, her son-in-law is a marching band instructor as well, Catherine. Go ahead, Amanda.
So I have a confession, because I wasn't on the last roundtable because I've actually been very sick, and I've actually been bedridden for 4 weeks straight. I have not left my bed. So I think sitting here, people might look at us that we're fully functioning and fully like, you got to do this and do what you can. And yeah, we love the motivation to keep on encouraging you all that this is possible. But square one is a reality. And I think we all started off at the very basics and focus on what you can do versus what you can't. And I have a really warped sense of the way how I encourage myself. My son works at a nursing home right across the street, and he'll come home and he'll talk to me about his day and what he sees. If I can do at least one thing for myself, whatever that one thing may be, good for me. I'm awesome. Keep doing that one thing until maybe you can do 2 things. I think the way how I managed was I've been sent back to square one more often than I can count. And I think a lot of us have been here too. Our lives are not an exponential, just straight line. So be prepared for the bad days. Be prepared to not be all that you thought you could or wanted to be, but just one decision to do that one thing that you can do. Enjoy that, embrace it, praise yourself for it, and do it again tomorrow, and maybe make it to 2, but at least do your one thing.
That reminds me of a Confucius quote that says, it doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. And I think that really applies with our lymphedema lives. It's like every small thing you can do is an act of care for yourself. And it's so important to even just do, if it's just elevating your legs, you know, during the day, or if it's, you know,
Or thinking
wrestling.
positively. Stop
Yeah,
thinking
thinking
about what you can't do. Think
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm breathing. I've got air in my lungs.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be big. I think that's the other mistake I used to make, is that it had to be, and same thing with Catherine. What she said, like, you always think you're going to see big, massive changes. Well, I don't know about you, but nothing really drastically changed fast in my life. And if it
No.
changes fast in your life, well, then you're going to have to teach me how. You got to teach the rest of the world how, because I don't think change is fast.
I think you bring up a good point also, and this sort of has come up in past roundtable discussions in terms of when we talk about advocacy also, where it's not always a big thing. It's not always this big gesture or this big act or whatever. We kind of get caught up because we have so many wonderful advocates and so many wonderful visible people in our community who are doing like these really awesome public displays of living with lymphedema, and they're on social media and they're out there, and it's awesome. But there's so many of us that are a little more we're indoor kids when it comes to that kind of stuff, or we're just a little more, you know, it's not in our nature to be out and loud about living with this, because being with like when I just went through 6 weeks of CDT with my leg wrapped, and I cannot tell you how many times I was asked, what'd you do to your leg, you know? And it's like, that's kind of invasive to ask a person you don't know. And then of course, when I go into explaining that it's lymphedema, it's a lymphatic disorder, this and that, then they kind of are like, oh, I regret asking. Go ahead, Amanda.
Can I also piggyback on top of that? I also think
Yes.
too, for change, we almost think it's like TV and cooking shows. Like they put the raw turkey in the oven, and like it's not even 10 seconds. The turkey with the stuffing and the trimmings nicely plated to boot comes out of the stove. And I think we, especially with society, things happen with the push of a button. This is not a TV show where it just comes out as soon as you put it in. This is really a labor of love. And I think every day you get a chance to work on yourself, whether it be mental, physical, emotional, nutritional, spiritual, and all the other O's that go in with that. Whatever that is, there's so many to choose from. Again, just do that one thing, and it's not insta TV. And I think you fall in love. And I think, I don't want to speak for the rest of the panel, but I ended up falling in love with this illness because it forced me to treat myself well. I'm still sucking at it. I don't do everything right, but I'm getting better every day. At least I think I am.
Yeah. I think
Right.
that's awesome. We have a few great comments in the chat too. Jen Bell, Kelly Bell's lovely wife, she says, I think we all have to acknowledge the quote unquote suck and honor our ability to weather our storms. The tide will turn and the storm will lessen, but ignoring the storm doesn't make it go away, and it doesn't help you navigate the next storm on your horizon. It's a really good
So
point.
good.
Ed Davis,
like that.
hey, Ed is a LymphaPress representative. It's good to see you in the chat. Ed says, so happy to hear Catherine's success these days. Before and after pictures are amazing, so do not miss her presentation at the NLN. Can't agree more. Charlotte Reimer says, this has been so good for me tonight. My edema is no longer being managed well, and my therapist suggested I consider surgery. I was wondering if Catherine would consider talking with me and giving me some advice in making that decision. We could definitely talk about surgery experiences. Geri says she's dealing with a full body compression suit, which makes it very challenging for me. I'm sorry, Geri. It is difficult when we have these things that we have to wear. I mean, the other night I was getting ready for bed and I was putting on my nighttime garment, and my boyfriend looked at me. He's like, I can't believe you do that every day. He's like so amazed that this is something that we do every day if we're good, you know, and taking care of ourselves. But wearing that compression and not taking breaks from it and just taking care of ourselves, it's tough. And we all face this every day, that choice. Do we put on the compression or do we not? Do we elevate? Do we not? Do we eat that salty pizza? Sometimes I do choose the salty pizza, you know, but it's a choice, and we learn to adapt with that. Did anyone else want to chime in? Go ahead, Louisa. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry,
There you
I
go.
muted myself because I never know if my little dog's gonna bark. Really coming from a therapist perspective, I think as a therapist, I truly evolved as well. And having that relationship with your therapist is very important in helping you find your toolbox of things to use. In the beginning, I was so rigid with my patients, and I just felt so compelled. But I think as I evolved as a therapist, I became more able to meet people where they were at. I was always a cheerleader, but I think our patients really need more tools in their toolbox. That's why it's so important, with CDT that we do that education part, because, I tell my patients, okay, I know you're going to go to a wedding and you're not going to want to wear your compression, but what are you going to do if you go 2 hours without compression to wear that dress? You need to have a plan for after that. So I really admire my patients. I admire you all because you do this every day. It's easy for me to tell you what to do. But I think the best I can offer as advice is just use your toolbox, and you know what to do. If you have a good therapist, they're going to tell you the tools that you can use to help you manage, and just collect as much of that as you can. And don't beat yourself up if you decide to go without compression for a couple hours so that you can, go wear a dress or something that, you just have to kind of figure that out. You'll just have to know what to do. So
that's so important. And I think as part of that toolbox too, our support system, whether it is your lymphedema therapist, whether it's your family, friends, other people in the lymphedema community, just coming here every month or watching the replays, the lean on your people. That's so important to living with this, because it can be so isolating. We talk about that all the time here. It can be so isolating. And Catherine has a famous thing that she said a few roundtables ago about her pity party. Do you want to share that? Because it resonated with a lot of people, because they bring it up all the time still.
They do. And that is, it's okay to have a pity party every now and then, but you have to put your big girl pants on and get going and keep fighting with that, so that this way you can keep going and get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's important. We are a few minutes from the halfway point. We're gonna do Q&A during the halfway point, and we have a couple questions in the chat and in the Q&A box. So just a little reminder, if you have any questions, to pop them in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. And then we'll have the call-in show, which is fun. But yeah, I know that before we get to the Q&A part, when we were talking before going live, Kelly mentioned the Dr. Perrin technique. This is a subject switch here. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Kelly?
Sure. Again, I don't know if you guys so I have my lymphatics are blocked, and over the years, my organs have struggled with everything, and there's always been issues with my head. Now there are a lot of issues with my head. And during the research process, I kind of had this Dr. Perrin. He's a UK doctor that discovered he's an osteopath in the UK. A cyclist came to him with chronic fatigue syndrome, believe it or not, in 1989. And that, even in those days, they hypothesized that your cerebral lymphatics actually drain through your nasal and down to your cervical lymphatics. And then also there are places in along your thoracic duct that also cerebrospinal fluid changes. And so I reached out to him, I'll be honest with you, I had someone that I was helping, and I told her about him, and she reached out to him. And so we got a connection going. And he has a really cool technique that I'll put in the chat here, that you can actually go on this website and see there's someone certified. If you're having chronic fatigue syndrome, he's treating fibromyalgia and now long COVID. He wrote an article way back in March of 2020 saying COVID is just the beginning. It's what's going to come afterwards. And he's a technique that he's developed since 1989 and very successfully treated a lot of patients with cerebral swelling issues. And I will honestly tell you, I didn't realize what was going on until last year at the Boston, when I was flying home from the Boston Lymphatic Symposium, and all of a sudden my head swelled back here, and all of a sudden my cognition levels dropped, and I couldn't even speak to my wife. Like, I couldn't remember her name. I couldn't put words together. And believe it or not, that's all because of what's going on here. This is supposed to be a negative pressure in your body, like it's supposed to be almost like a sucking for all the fluid from here, your legs and your head to come down. And your head doesn't have valves. So with that being blocked, what happens is that stuff doesn't exchange like it's supposed to in my body. And now it's worse after 18 years of this. And it's like, basically my head is swelling and like very minutely, but for me, it's a big deal. You guys know I'm a retired military guy. I've never had anything stop me, but when this comes up and hits me in the head, there's only one function my body can do, and that's lay down. And so he's going to be, I spoke to him. He's going to be doing a presentation on Lymphedema Simplified, 27th, 28th, 29th of October. I highly recommend that you listen to his talk. It's very good, very full of research and data, and very aware, because it's a very simple technique. That it could take a while if you're really blocked. I don't know if you can help me because I got plastic. But he works on moving basically fluid in your thoracic duct and does basically cranial sacral therapy and stuff. I don't know all the techniques. I do know the person I sent that found a therapist near her. It actually is helping her quite a bit. So I recommend you guys look into that. I'm going to put a link to it on the site, and just because there's stuff on YouTube for him, but then there are therapists now being trained around the country you can go to.
Awesome. Kelly, can you also drop a link in the chat for Lymphedema Simplified as well?
I sure can.
Thank you. And
So so doctors of osteopathy were actually probably the first to really acknowledge the lymphatic system as being integral part of the drainage. And in the brain lymphatic, so the CSF being the lymphatic fluid of the brain is really new to us, but not new to the doctors of osteopathy. And so they have developed some of their own lymphatic techniques, but I will tell you that they're not all that different than regular manual lymph drainage. And deep breathing is that suction that you're talking about, Kelly, that will drive that CSF through the brainstem. So if there's one thing you can do for yourself, sleep, because that's when you drain all those byproducts, is when you're sleeping, where our body lymphatics are active during the day. The brain needs to drain its byproducts at night. So sleeping on your side, ideally. So that's really important. But yes, I think there's so many of us that are doing lymphatic work, but we're calling it different things. But the Perrin technique actually was studied, and I think they were looking at headaches and sleep. And so any kind of neuroinflammatory condition that involves the brain really links back to the brain lymphatics.
Isn't there stuff too about like with Alzheimer's and everything too, and linking that with lymphatics?
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Right.
And
Right.
And it also links to your gut, believe it or not. Like with these pressure variations, and there's way these things are functioning. And that's one thing I'm going to talk to Dr. Perrin about, is the fact that most people don't know this, because in my process of research, because of my issues, deranged lipid metabolism, for some reason, lipids increase in the cerebrospinal fluid for Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, chronic fatigue syndrome, bipolar, like the bipolar diseases, depression, those like lipids actually increase in there. And our lymphatic system is what pulls that stuff out of the tissues.
Right.
And so
I think that's really going to be the most exciting thing coming up. I've always been excited about it, but Monarch Training does a neurolymphatic class. I help teach that with Carmen Recupero. And so there's a whole bunch of therapists in the United States that do her protocol. And she studied the brain lymphatics with the University of Virginia. I can't think of his name. researchers, and they map the brain lymphatics. So right here and now in the United States, you could probably find a neurolymphatic therapist to utilize some of the techniques that osteopaths use.
And where would I locate that person?
So Monarch Training. So if you, I think as well, are we not supposed to do any?
No, you can.
Okay, advertise.
Yeah.
Monarch Training CE. So Carmen Recupero Elliott. She's out of there of Blacksburg, Virginia, but there's therapists who've trained with her all over the country. And so she actually did the keynote presentation in 2019 in Boston that just blew my socks off. So I became obsessed with it. So I'm excited that we were talking about it. Okay, Amanda, I'll be quiet. You go.
No, I was curious to know if there are designations behind their name versus CLT. Would it also go like CLT?
No, you do have to be
CLT?
yeah, you do have to be a CLT to take her class, but I don't believe that there's any type of a credential that she's providing.
So if I was a patient and if I went under Monarch, they would just all say CLT at the end. There's nothing to differentiate between like neurological versus thoracic versus arm, leg.
I would just
everything's
call,
just
yeah, contact Monarch Training and then ask who's birth therapist near you. And there's more and more people who are getting involved. But, you know, when you talk about cranial sacral techniques and doctors of osteopathic manipulation, manual lymph drainage, I mean, really, they all kind of are doing very similar things. We're just calling it different things. But I know that Dr. Perrin's method is very specific, and it probably has, you know, at least the research behind it to really look at what it's doing. And so that's exciting. So I'd love to hear more about it.
So cool. It's amazing how far lymphatics have come, you know, in terms of research and everything too.
Yeah.
And
I've had tremendous results with my patients that I've worked with people who've had MS, migraine, long COVID. I had a patient who just had a really horrific time with long COVID. She had actually developed lymphedema after long COVID, but her most debilitating factor were migraines. And so I was seeing her a couple times a week initially, and then it was down to one time a week, probably over a 2-month period. And she was down to having very infrequent headaches.
wow.
She
That's
refused to
incredible.
do compression, so you know her swelling was not well under control. But you know, for the most part, I've seen some pretty amazing things.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. We're gonna switch gears into the Q&A. We have a couple questions in the Q&A box that we're gonna get started with. Now this first one is a really important topic. It has to do with genital lymphedema. So Louisa, I don't know, this might be lobbed your way, but she's asking, what should she do for vaginal swelling?
Well, number one, you really need to see a lymphedema therapist who also specializes as a pelvic floor therapist. A lot of pelvic floor therapists are not lymphedema trained. They could probably help a little, but you really need to see, ideally, if you go to a women's health clinic and look for somebody who's a CLT who has experience with genital lymphedema, that's where I would start.
That's great. Thanks, Louisa. Teddy B is asking about nighttime. Oh, did anyone else have anything on that topic? Sorry, I didn't mean to jump to the next. Okay. Teddy B is asking about nighttime compression. She says, I'm getting measured virtually. Insurance only deals with this one insurance, Luna Medical, out of town. She says she wants the jobs relaxed because they aren't as thick and hot as others, but I'm looking for advice on whether to get full length leg or just below knee. I currently wrap almost every night, which is getting really old. I have lipedema as well. Thanks so much. I just got a new night garment. I have a Relax. I've had a Tribute for years, but I actually just got the new Medi profile, Circade profile, I think it's called. It's really cooling. I'm like,
Really comfy.
it's comfy. It's like, and I'm such a tribute gal, but I would take it off in the middle of the night because I would get overheated. But I've really been enjoying the Medi night garment. The Relax I kind of refer to as the sweatpants of compression. I don't feel as contained when I wear it. It's kind of like when I'm around the house on the weekends, sort of a thing. Again, we talk about this all the time. It's very much trial and error, and what works for one person doesn't work for another, and all that. You guys know the drill. But from my experience, I was surprised with the Medi night garment. I keep it on all night long. I live in humid Baltimore, and I haven't taken it off once so far in the middle of the night. So, Catherine.
So there is one really cool feature, and Alexa, I don't know if you thought about this feature on that garment, is it is the only nighttime garment that actually has the diagonal foot. So the ending is the only garment that actually is diagonal for at your MTP compared to all of the other ones that go straight across.
Didn't think about that. I'm gonna have
And
to
that's
look
why
at
I
it
bet you can
tonight.
keep it on, because it doesn't push extra pressure on that pinky toe.
Interesting. Very
Because
interesting.
that's what the only one I can keep on as well.
So the Jobst Relax is really more for someone who's a stage 1, maybe harboring on a stage 2. I agree. My patients who've had it, if they were stage 2 or above, it doesn't give you enough containment. And then there was a question about should they get it all the way up their thigh. It really depends on where your swelling is, but you have to think about where what lymph nodes are involved. And if you're having any thigh swelling, you really need to have that contained as well. So if that helps you at all. And it's interesting they're doing this virtually, because I think that's really the future that's going to be happening with the Lymphedema Treatment Act. There'll be a lot more people who are trained to do compression fitting, and very curious to see how that works out. But
Yeah, it works so well in like person to person.
Yeah.
How many of us got stuck with thousands of dollars worth of garments we couldn't even wear because they kept coming the wrong size?
Yeah, I had to luckily I just got new garments, one pair for my daytime garments after doing the CDT, and the way that my garment fitter works, and I think this is, and I wear Medi daytime garments, flat knit. They have like a window of time that if it doesn't fit right or a measurement is off, once it arrives, you can get the corrections done, as long as it's nothing too extreme. So like with mine, I wear thigh highs, and they had put this like flex panel on the front of the knee and then in the back of the knee, but I also already get a silk panel lining on the inside of the back of my knee, so it just made it really bunchy and uncomfortable. So they were able to correct that for me, thankfully. But to Kelly's point, yeah, it's a lot. They don't always get it right.
Did we answer her question about like whether a knee or full length?
Yeah, she mentioned she has lipedema, which makes me think if your thighs are involved in that case, you
I'll be
probably.
honest with you. Go ahead. My opinion is if you haven't been imaged, you should always go up.
Mhm.
Because you don't know. Gravity can shove it down. Like for me, I battled my lymphatic issues were in my gut for 5 years. No one even went there. And then all of a sudden they go to my feet. And so that's why I tell people like go up higher. Because if you're too low, it's going to bunch above you're going to progress it to your thigh.
Yeah. I actually found again, I don't mean to be like, well, I just had CDT, but at my CDT appointment, they did find that above my thigh, there was denser tissue at the top of my thigh, like above where the band of my day garment usually is. So that was a fun discovery. So now I'm wearing bicycle shorts sometimes as an added compression for my upper thighs and groin area. But yeah, so
That sucks.
Go back to the trial and error. You're going back to the trial and error piece of trying to figure it out. Because like somebody like me, I can't wear the bike shorts very easily because it actually pushes the fluid down my leg because of it being too much pressure on the top of my leg. So I actually had to go and get the unilateral panty garment so that this way it was one piece. So that this way I didn't have a layer, a thigh high layered, and then have a more additional pressure just on my thigh.
A good point. We got a question from Charlotte in the Q&A box. She says, I guess what I would like to hear from Catherine. At what point did you decide it was time for surgical intervention? Second, the 2 physicians in Florida that do LVB do not take insurance. Did you run into that? And what would you suggest for resources to seek a reputable physician who does take insurance?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Like 2-parter.
All right. So when I did my transplant surgery, so I had a VLNT with my omentum. I
Can
actually
you say what that stands for? Sorry.
I had a vascularized lymph node transfer using my omentum into my left groin and my calf. And it actually was only initially planned for my calf. I actually went on to, I want to say it was Learn's website, and looked for the centers of excellence to look at what physicians were available. And when I did that, I then did some research on them. And in terms of research, I'm not just looking at their website. I actually was looking up what they wrote about, because having a surgeon who does research and incorporates those what he's researching into his surgical practice was super important to me. And the other piece that I really looked at was what kind of knowledge did they actually have about CDT, because sometimes surgeons can do the surgery but they don't know the after effects. So the surgeon I chose for that procedure actually is a CLT, which was very helpful because he actually had his collection of compression garments, and he has worn every single brand and every single type to be able to explain to me why he wanted me to utilize one specific brand versus another, and had his reasonings for different things, such as compression pumps, such as daytime garments, nighttime garments. When I had the conversations with him, when I met him for the first time in the office, he was super knowledgeable, and he understood that I was going to drill him about questions, because I needed to know that the person I was trusting to take one body part out of me and move it someplace else needed to make sure that he knew what he was talking about and going to do, because you don't want to obviously have somebody do something like that if they don't understand how the body works. And my body works a little bit different because it's been fully radiated as a child. So it's very different. And, I had to find somebody and trust that particular person knew what he was doing. In terms of insurance, I didn't look at any doctors who did not take insurance, because I knew I couldn't afford it out of pocket. So when I looked at Learn's list, I then cross-referenced that list with my insurance company's list to check who was in network, who was out of network, and then kind of narrowed down my list from there. And then I was able to take all of my pieces together and narrow down to one particular person. And I went down and I saw him, and was very, very impressed. And when he actually did my surgery, we changed surgical plan in 18 hours before, because he realized that there was a problem and he needed to fix that problem first. And I actually learned 3 weeks ago that after he started to fix that problem, he was actually very scared that he wasn't going to be able to close it because of the amount of radiation damage that I had. So, and I didn't know that from the past 5 years. He literally told me that 3 weeks ago for the first time. So it was kind of freaky when I found that out. Then I had the surgery up here in Pennsylvania. And University of Penn has a lymphatic disorders clinic. And all 3 of them will be at NLN, actually speaking before me. And they all accept the insurance that I had. So my office visits with the physical medicine and rehab doc were covered. The imaging was covered, and the surgery was covered. Both technically there was one procedure that was done before the actual central lymphatic surgical procedure, and all of those were covered in network at 100% for me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And Charlotte says thanks too. We are going to move into our call-in show portion tonight, which I'm really trying to make a thing. So
I need the thumbs up so I can see who I'm supposed to add to my list here.
Yes. So if you are interested in participating or have a chance to join us on the other side of the virtual table, use the raise hand feature on here. So we already have someone raising their hand, Geri. So we're going to allow a few more people to raise their hands. And if it's not a whole lot, we might just give everybody a chance. The prompt that we'd love to hear from you on is, what encourages you as you manage your lymphedema? Because again, today's the National Day of Encouragement. So we're kind of running with that theme. It's always a good one. So if you are interested in participating, we have Geri, we have Valgrace, we have Charlotte. Anybody else? We might not even have to spin the wheel if we only have 3 lovely ladies who'd like to chat with us. And we'll just do one at a time, just for a minute or so each. Just kind of tell us what encourages you. We'd love to hear it. And just voice only, you don't have to be on camera. So, oh, Geri says in the chat, she's a cancer survivor and 2 grandchildren are the force pushing her along. Well, Geri, would you like to join us on voice first and tell us a little bit more? I'm going to press allow to talk if you're ready to join us. No pressure though. Hey, Geri.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I really need a support system for this because I'm lost. I'm like in left field. Because I feel like every time I move 2 steps forward, I take 3 steps back because I don't know why, the swelling just comes back. And it's not just legs. It's from under my breasts down. It's whole body, because unfortunately, I had something called ablation for the cancer, which was a full body radiation. And it was for 12 hours, 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out, because the cancer was in 9 areas of my body. And it killed my lymphatic system. So I not only have lymphedema, but I have the lipedema as well, which means that the fluid is not only in the tissues, but it's in the muscles. And I'm now getting these nodules all around my body. And I have no idea what to do. I do the garments, I do the compression. I've been to the therapist, the lymphedema therapist, and I had everything under control. And then I moved. And when I moved, my whole support system stopped because I'm having trouble finding someone in this area. Now I'm in the Philadelphia area. So if anyone knows anybody in the area that's a good massage therapist for lymphedema, I would appreciate very much finding out who that is.
Yeah, definitely. I can put some links in the chat, and I'll send this when I send the replay out in about a week, but there's some resources to find therapists. Let me send this in the chat real quick, but we'll email it to you too. There's a lot, I feel, in the Philadelphia area.
There definitely
Catherine,
is.
yeah.
Where in the Philadelphia area are you?
I'm in Sewell, New Jersey.
So in that area, I would actually say you probably want to go to Good Shepherd Penn Partners, which would be Cherry Hill. I know it's a little bit of a distance, but they are affiliated with University of Penn's lymphatic disorders team. They actually work side by side with them. And so if there's something else needed medically, they have the medical doctors and the testing available to you. Right.
What is their name again?
It's Good Shepherd Penn Partners. You would actually look underneath University of Penn lymphedema therapy. And there's one in Cherry Hill, and there's others in other areas. I just don't know exactly where else down there, but I know there's some in Center City, Philly, and then there's the one in Cherry Hill for sure on Route 70.
Well, Cherry Hill is a lot closer than Philadelphia for me.
So there's the
I'm-
one right on Route 7,
I'm
the 10
closer
minutes
to-
in. Yeah, it's right there.
I'm closer to Cherry Hill because I'm in the corner of, I'm almost in Williamstown.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the cusp.
Yeah, that's my neck. I'm kind of close to there, so it's I mean I'm by Atlantic City area, but that's where I would say, so that this way you have access to not only the therapist, but additionally if they say, you know, you really should see a medical physician, they have that right in the same. The physician is not at that location, but they're all connected together.
Okay.
And Ed Davis just put in the chat what Catherine mentioned, Good Shepherd Pen Partners. So hopefully you can find somebody there, Geri.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here tonight, and be here. Keep coming back here too. We're here every month. So we'll be your support system in the meantime.
Thank you.
And
course.
Geri, just give yourself a break. Just start, like we said, start over again. First, find a specialist that you can get referred to, and then it'll go from there.
Yeah.
Just use the tools that you have right now, and then get in to see somebody and just start that process.
And
Thank
just
you.
keep in
You're going to
mind,
be okay.
keep in mind that, as you said, you take 3 steps forward and you're taking 2 steps back. You're still a step forward further than what you were when you first went forward. So even if it is slow and steady wins the race, you are, it may not seem like you're improving, but when you look back at a couple weeks prior, it is definitely a difference too.
Right.
Yeah. And I think Lymphatic Education and Research Network, I think they have a Philly chapter.
They do.
They do, yeah. So that could be another resource as well, as far as finding support around your area. That might be a good place to look. But we're rooting for you, Geri. And like everyone said, you know, each day is a new beginning with all of this. So please don't beat yourself up over it too. Get there. And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm gonna invite Valgrace Brooks on to join us now, if that's all right for the last few minutes we've got here. But all right, I'm going to mute you, Geri. Thank you for hopping on. And I'm gonna invite Valgrace. So I hope you're ready, Valgrace. Oh. Hello. How are you doing tonight? What encourages you? Ooh.
That's a hard question to say. I try to stay motivated by, maybe people are not a Christian here. I pray and meditate and listen to meditation music at night and just elevate my legs and go to sleep. That's what encourages me. Now, sometimes I get into the tub and stretch my legs and massage my legs and my thighs while I'm in the tub. It's like a little mini spa for me. I don't always go to the pool all the time, but the water aerobics help my legs and feet from the swelling. Now that's what encourages me, getting in the water and meditation. I try not to think of food. It's okay. I try not to think about the illness. I know it's genetic. I got it through my mother. She had it too. And unfortunately, she passed away in 2008. She had to get her legs amputated. And I'm trying to avoid that from happening to me, because this is genetic. My mother had it, my sister had it, I got it. But she passed away in 2008 and had a vascular disease and had to get her legs amputated.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying not to. Yeah, she was like 74 years old, and I caregived for her from 2005 because I came back from Memphis and moved back to Virginia, and I had to caregive for her. And my daddy, he had dementia. He passed away after my mom passed away 3 years later. But, you know, I inherited the lymphedema through my mother, and I'm trying to manage my legs and feet so they don't swell by following instructions like the doctor told me. Elevate my legs while I'm at home, go to a massage therapy, get into the water, that helps me. And sometimes I soak in the water. Some days I just sit in the tub all day long at night and fall asleep in the tub with the water on me. And it's relaxing. You know, I can't afford a jacuzzi, so that's what I do. That's how I manage my day. And I do get on the lymphedema machine, not faithfully like I should, but I do get on it. I don't like it because it's so bulky, but it does the job. You know, I hate them compression socks. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I have to wear them at work if I want to walk around freely. I won't fall down. I have fell down many times without, you know, because I didn't have the socks on. But now I'm managing it properly like I'm supposed to. I'm following the directions like my doctors are telling me. I got my compression machine through the VA. I got my socks that I put on while I'm, you know, I have to wear them while I work. And I do water aerobics in my house, right in my tub. I can't afford a jacuzzi. Every now and then I go to the YMCA and get in the therapy pool, and that helps a lot too. But I don't like to drive to the YMCA every day. But I do my own therapy at home. So that's how I manage my lymphedema. I'm trying to keep from what happened to my mother not happen to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trying to stay mobile, taking my time so I won't fall anymore because I've had too many falls. So I just walk at my own pace. And I don't get out there and walk fast like I used to because I can't do that no more. So that's how I manage my lymphedema.
I love that. And water is like one of the best things. That's natural compression. When you go in the pool, it provides natural compression. So that's really good you're doing that. Even if you're at home, you know, that sounds really relaxing, and the meditation and the prayer really helps too.
Sure does. It helps me.
Yeah. Well, that sounds wonderful that you're managing. I know it's not easy.
I know it's not easy for me to watch what I eat, and I got to work on that, the salt. I love my salt.
Yeah.
But I quit soda.
Well, that's good. That's half the battle, I feel like. Soda is good. That's good.
Yep. Still working on the salt, so I love my chicken. I ain't gonna lie. I just
Well,
don't
hey.
eat a lot like I used to. When I cut down, moderation, like the doctors say. Just don't eat a lot like you used to. Just eat in moderation, you know.
Drink a lot of water, elevate after.
Man,
Yeah.
I elevate my legs at night after I get off work. Take my bath, sit in the tub for a while, get dressed, put my pajamas on, get in my recliner, and elevate my legs and listen to my meditation music. That's how I manage my lymphedema, and it seems to be helping.
That's awesome. That sounds really nice. Sounds very relaxing, especially after a long day too.
Yeah, long day from work.
Mm.
Because your legs swell while you're working and walking.
Yeah.
And I wear the compression socks when I'm at work, of course.
That's good.
Those socks are uncomfortable to wear all night long.
Do you have a night garment you wear?
I don't wear a night garment. I just have a compression machine that comes up with my thighs. No, it comes up with my feet and legs. That's where my swelling happens, in my feet and legs. And I got my compression machine that I use. I don't use it faithfully, but I do. I don't. It's so bulky, but it does the job. Hello.
Oh, go ahead, Louisa.
So Valgrace, I heard you say, so you're wearing your compression socks, the same socks that you wear to work, you're wearing that to sleep in?
No, I take them off at night.
Okay. Okay. All right. I thought I misunderstood that. Okay. There should, you might want to look into, there's lighter compression stuff made just for sleeping, and that'll get you, a step ahead in the next day if you're able to get some night compression on.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah, look into the VA. They have some options.
Yeah, I got the compression machine from the VA actually.
Yeah, they also might cover a night garment. So
I got some compression socks from the VA, but they itch too bad. I can't stand wearing them. They hurt. They irritate my skin.
right, a lot of those aren't good for everyone. There is some Velcro wrap type stuff that might work for you. It's a little easier to put on, and you can sleep in them. They're short stretch, which when I say short stretch, that means that they, they have a resting pressure when you're walking, when you're sitting around and doing nothing, and then they have a working pressure when you're active. And that's kind of what we want to have. If you're going to be sleeping, is something with a low resting pressure.
Okay.
So
But
yeah,
can you buy those at Amazon, or would it be better to get them prescribed?
it'd be better if you get fitted appropriately, because not everybody fits into Amazon. Although things in Amazon are cheaper, you know, less expensive, and there probably are some good things on there, but getting measured appropriately, so they'll take a measurement of your ankle, your calf, the length of your leg. So, but I'm pretty sure the VA will cover at least something in that area.
They covered my concussion machine and they covered my concussion socks. I just don't like to wear the socks because they itch so bad.
Yeah, that's why you might want to do like a Velcro wrap.
Okay. I'll talk to my doctor about that.
Yeah, because you can sleep in them and you can walk in them. They can be both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they may not know that.
I actually just put mine on before we actually started. I was putting them on. My Velcro ones, when I came home and took off my daytime ones, I put on my Velcro.
I told you should have saved it to put on a live demo on screen.
Yeah, but I knew I needed to get it on quick before I started to swell. So
That's fair. That's fair.
you know.
Well, everybody, we're at 9:01 p.m. I know we've got some more hands that have been raised too, and I'm so grateful, Geri and Valgrace, for hopping on tonight. Charlotte and Ruth, your hands are raised. Next month, join us, and we'll make sure that you are grandfathered to the front of the line for the call-in show, because it's been great getting to hear everybody and talk with you all on in this way, as well as in the chat. So it's time to wrap up, everybody. We are here every second Tuesday of every month, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As we mentioned up top, the October Roundtable, we're going to be coming fresh out of the NLN, a few of us. So we're going to be talking about everything we learned and all the cool new stuff that's out there. So we'll be excited to kind of download all of that with you guys. If you can't make it live in our October roundtable or any of the roundtables, we encourage you to still register, because you'll get the replay sent right to your email as soon as it's uploaded to YouTube. But if not, it's always on our YouTube channel, the Lymphedema channel. And it's also on our podcast, the Lymphedema podcast. We have audio versions of the roundtables a week after they're live. So next Tuesday, if we don't have the video edited yet, you can listen to it on our podcast while you pump or while you're out and about, whatever you're doing. You can hear our dulcet tones wherever you are. But we so appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you, Louisa, our special guest. Thank you, Geri and Valgrace, for joining us, and everybody who was in the chat, who asked questions, who just tuned in and listened. We so appreciate you all, and we hope to see you next month. So thanks, everybody. Stay encouraged, stay pumped, and we'll see you soon. Good night.
And everyone.
Night.